The keys felt heavy in my hand as I unlocked the door to my childhood home for what my sister claimed would be the last time. Emily's smug laughter still rang in my ears as she'd waved those documents in my face just hours ago, her perfectly manicured nails gripping the papers that supposedly gave her everything. My name is Alexandra Chen, and at 32, I never expected to be facing homelessness, especially not at the hands of my own sister. But here I was, standing in our father's study, surrounded by the memories of a man who taught me everything I knew about business. Everything except, apparently, how to protect myself from my own family. "You have until Friday to get out," Emily had said, her voice dripping with the same condescension she perfected since we were children. "I'm selling the house, and everything in it belongs to me now. Isn't it funny how things work out?" Funny wasn't the word I would have chosen. 3 weeks after our father's funeral, Emily had somehow produced a will that left everything, the house, the business, the investments, all to her. The timing was suspicious, but the documents looked legitimate, and my sister had always been clever when it came to getting what she wanted. I ran my fingers along Dad's mahogany desk, remembering all the nights I'd spent here as a teenager, watching him work, learning about the family business. While Emily had been out partying through college, I'd been here, soaking up every lesson Dad had to teach. The import-export company he'd built from nothing had been his pride and joy, and I'd spent the last 10 years helping him grow it even further. "You're just like me, Alex," he often say, his eyes crinkling with pride. "You understand that success isn't about quick wins, it's about playing the long game." The long game. I smiled slightly as I remembered those words, even as I heard Emily's heels clicking down the hallway toward the study. "Still here?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. "I thought I told you to start packing. The new owners want to do a walkthrough next week." I turned to face her, taking in the designer outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Emily had always been about appearances, about showing the world how successful she was. But Dad had taught me that true success wasn't about what you could show, it was about what you knew. "Just gathering some personal items," I said calmly, picking up a framed photo from Dad's desk. It was from my college graduation, me in my cap and gown, Dad beaming beside me. Emily hadn't attended the ceremony, claiming she had a spa appointment she couldn't reschedule. "Personal items?" Emily scoffed. "Did you miss the part where everything belongs to me now? That includes the photos, the furniture, even Dad's precious collection of business journals. Though why you want those boring old things is beyond me." I carefully set the photo back down, noting how Emily's eyes narrowed at my composure. She'd expected tears, begging, maybe even a fight. My calmness was clearly throwing her off balance. "You know what's interesting, Emily?" I said, moving toward the bookshelf where Dad kept his most important documents. "Dad always said that the most valuable things in life aren't always the most obvious." She rolled her eyes, checking her reflection in her compact mirror. "Spare me the fortune cookie wisdom, Alex. You're broke, I'm rich, and soon you'll be out on the street. That's all there is to it." But that wasn't all there was to it. Not even close. As I ran my fingers along the spine of Dad's oldest business journal, I thought about the real inheritance he'd left me, the one Emily knew nothing about. The lessons, the connections, the secret accounts in Hong Kong that only I knew how to access. Dad had always been 10 steps ahead, and he taught me to do the same. "You're right," I said, turning back to her. "I should start packing." Emily's triumphant smile faltered slightly at my easy agreement. She'd been hoping for resistance, for drama she could use to paint me as the unstable sister who couldn't handle losing everything. That's right," she said, recovering quickly. "And don't think about taking anything valuable. I've already cataloged everything worth selling." I nodded, gathering a few personal items into a small box. "Of course. Though I have to ask, what are you planning to do with the business? Dad's company isn't exactly something you can run without experience." Emily waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, I'm selling that too. Some corporate conglomerate made an offer. They'll probably strip it for parts, but who cares? The payout will be amazing." My heart clenched at her casual dismissal of Dad's life's work, but I kept my expression neutral. "I see. Well, good luck with that." As I walked past her out of the study, box in hand, I could feel her watching me, probably trying to figure out why I wasn't more upset. She'd expected me to break down, to beg her to reconsider, to fight her for what was rightfully mine. But Dad had taught me better than that. He'd show me that sometimes when people think they've won, that's when they're most vulnerable. And Emily, in her rush to claim everything for herself, had missed the most important inheritance of all. I made my way to my old bedroom, setting the box down on my childhood bed. The room looked exactly as it had when I'd left for college, walls lined with academic awards and business competition trophies, while Emily's room down the hall was still plastered with boy band posters and fashion magazine cutouts. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, Dad's longtime friend and business partner. Everything in place. Ready when you are. I smiled, thinking about the look that would cross Emily's face when she realized what was really going on. Dad had always said that in business, like in chess, you had to think several moves ahead. And while Emily had been focused on the obvious prizes, the house, the cars, the visible trappings of wealth, she completely missed the real game being played. The sound of Emily's voice drifted up from downstairs. She was already on the phone with a real estate agent, discussing listing prices and potential buyers. Let her plan, I thought. Let her think she's won. Because in 3 days, when she tried to sell Dad's company, she'd discover that sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't listed in any will. Sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, in the lessons learned over countless nights in a study, in the relationships built over years of hard work, and in the careful planning of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. I picked up my box and walked downstairs, past Emily, who was still chattering about property values, and out to my car. As I pulled out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of her in my rearview mirror, standing in the doorway with that satisfied smirk still on her face. Enjoy your victory, Em, I muttered, turning onto the main road. While it lasts. 3 days passed like a slow-motion countdown. I'd moved into a small apartment downtown, the kind of place Emily would consider beneath her. But location didn't matter. What mattered was that it was directly across from Dad's company headquarters, giving me a perfect view of what was about to unfold. That morning, I watched from my window as Emily's red Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. She stepped out in her designer suit, probably dressed to impress the corporate buyers she thought would be stripping apart Dad's legacy. I couldn't help but smile as I noticed Marcus's car already parked in his usual spot. My phone buzzed. A message from Linda in accounting. She's here. Conference room B, everything's ready. I took a deep breath, straightening my own blazer as I gathered my files. Dad's voice echoed in my memory. The best business deals aren't made in boardrooms, Alex. They're made in the quiet moments, in the relationships you build when nobody's watching. For 10 years, I've been building those relationships. While Emily had been posting Instagram photos from exotic vacations, I've been learning every aspect of the business. I knew every employee by name, understood every contract, and most importantly, I had earned their trust. The elevator dinged as I reached the executive floor. Through the glass walls, I could see Emily sitting in the conference room, tapping her perfectly manicured nails impatiently on the table. She was alone, no sign of the corporate buyers she'd been bragging about. Miss Chen, Marcus greeted me with a knowing smile as I approached. Ready? I nodded, clutching the folder that contained everything we'd been preparing for. Let's do this. Emily's head snapped up as we entered the conference room, her eyes narrowing when she saw me. What are you doing here? This is a private meeting. Is it? I asked, taking a seat across from her. Funny, because as the majority shareholder of Chen Imports, I'd say I have every right to be here. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? The will gave me everything, including the company. Marcus cleared his throat, sliding a document across the table. Actually, Ms. Chen, your father's will gave you his personal assets, the house, cars, and liquid investments. But the company? He paused, allowing himself a small smile. That's a different matter entirely. Emily snatched the paper, her hands shaking slightly as she read. I could pinpoint the exact moment reality hit her. Her perfectly composed facade cracked, replaced by dawning horror. This can't be right, she stammered. Dad transferred 60% of the company's shares to Alex? When? 2 years ago, I said calmly. Right after you told him his business was boring and you'd rather focus on your social media influencer career. Remember that family dinner? She did remember. I could see it in her eyes. The night she laughed at Dad's offer to learn the business, declaring that she was meant for bigger things than import-export work. But the buyers, she sputtered. They're coming today to make an offer. No, they're not, Marcus interjected. Because the company isn't for sale. In fact, under Alex's leadership, we just secured 3 major new contracts that will double our revenue within the year. Emily's face flushed red with anger. This isn't fair. I'm his daughter too. I deserve. What exactly do you deserve, Emily? I cut in, my voice sharp. You've never worked a day in this company. You don't know our employees, our clients, or our operations. The only thing you've ever cared about is what you could get out of it. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. You planned this, didn't you? You and Dad, you were always so close, always excluding me. No, Emily, I said, standing as well. You excluded yourself. Every time you dismissed his work as beneath you, every time you chose a party over a family dinner, every time you made it clear that his legacy meant nothing to you. Those were your choices. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were from genuine emotion or frustration at losing control. So what now? You're just going to take everything? I shook my head. No, you can keep the house and everything else from the will. But the company? That stays with someone who actually cares about it, and the people who depend on it for their livelihoods. Marcus stood, gathering his papers. I believe we're done here. Ms. Chen, your office needs to be cleared out by the end of the week. Emily stared at me, a mix of rage and disbelief on her face. You think you've won, don't you? That you're so clever, just like Dad always said. This isn't about winning, Emily, I replied, gathering my things. It's about protecting what matters, something Dad tried to teach both of us, if you'd ever bothered to listen. As she stormed out of the conference room, her heels echoing down the hallway, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Through the windows, I could see employees trying to hide their smiles. They'd all known this was coming, had all been part of keeping the secret until the right moment. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. Your father would be proud, Alex. He always said you were the one who understood what really mattered. I nodded, looking around at the office that had been my second home for so many years. He taught me that success isn't about what you own. It's about what you build, what you protect, and who you become in the process. A month after the conference room showdown, I sat in Dad's old office, my office now, reviewing quarterly reports. The view of the city skyline was the same, but everything else had changed. Emily had made good on her threat to sell the house. Though the buyers backed out when they discovered the extensive repairs needed, she'd been too busy posting on social media to maintain the property properly. My intercom buzzed. Ms. Chen, my assistant Sarah's voice came through. Your sister is here. She's insisting on seeing you. I took a deep breath, straightening the papers on my desk. Send her in. Emily looked different from the last time I'd seen her. The designer outfit was gone, replaced by something more subdued. Her perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, but the biggest change was in her eyes. The smugness was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. Alex, she said, hovering in the doorway. Can we talk? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Of course. She sat down, fidgeting with her purse strap. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. I sold the house, she finally said. I heard. The money, it's almost gone. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Turns out maintaining a luxury lifestyle is expensive when you don't actually have a source of income. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. What do you want, Emily? I've been thinking, she said, her voice quieter than I had ever heard it. About Dad, about everything he tried to teach us. I didn't understand it then, but I think I'm starting to now. What's there to understand? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. You got exactly what you wanted. The money, the assets. She shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. No, I got what I thought I wanted, but sitting in that empty house, going through Dad's things, I found his journals. My heart skipped a beat. Dad's business journals had been his most prized possession, filled with not just business strategies but personal reflections, lessons he'd hoped to pass on to both his daughters. Did you read them? I asked. Emily nodded, wiping her eyes. Every single one. The way he wrote about you, about how proud he was of your dedication. Your understanding of what really matters. But you know what hit me the hardest? The entries about me. She pulled a worn leather journal from her purse, opening it to a marked page. He wrote, Emily has so much potential, if only she could see beyond the surface. Money can be earned and lost, but knowledge, wisdom, relationships, these are the true measures of wealth. I remembered that entry. Dad had written it the night Emily had refused to attend a crucial client dinner, choosing instead to go to a celebrity party. He never gave up hope that you'd understand, I said softly. But I didn't, Emily replied, her voice breaking. Not until it was too late, and now I have nothing. No real skills, no purpose, just a dwindling bank account and a lot of regrets. I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the city. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the buildings Dad had pointed out to me countless times, telling me stories about the deals made and lessons learned in each one. You're wrong, I said finally, turning back to face her. You don't have nothing. You have the most valuable thing Dad tried to give us, the opportunity to learn, to grow, to understand what really matters. Emily looked up, hope flickering across her face. What are you saying? I'm saying, I continued, returning to my desk, that if you're serious about understanding Dad's legacy, about learning what he tried to teach us, there's a place for you here. Her eyes widened. You'd give me a job. After everything I did. Not give, I corrected her. Offer, you'll start at the bottom, just like I did. You'll learn every aspect of the business, work your way up. No special treatment, no shortcuts. Why would you do this? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I pulled out one of Dad's old journals, opening it to the last entry he'd written before his death. Because Dad believed in second chances, he wrote here, business is about profit, but family is about growth. Sometimes the greatest returns come from investing in people when they're ready to change. Emily stood up, her hands trembling slightly. I won't let you down this time. Either of you. I know, I said, standing as well. Because this time you understand what you're working for. As we walked out of the office together, I caught our reflection in the glass walls. Two sisters, finally on the same page, ready to build something meaningful together. Dad had always said that the true measure of success wasn't in what you accumulated, but in what you built and who you helped along the way. That evening, as I locked up the office, I paused at Dad's old photo on the wall. You were right, I whispered. The long game isn't just about business strategy. Sometimes it's about giving people the time they need to understand what really matters. Emily was waiting by the elevator, holding Dad's journal close to her chest. As we rode down together, I realized that maybe this was the inheritance Dad had wanted all along. Not just the company's success, but the chance for both his daughters to understand the true value of his legacy. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't about winning or losing, but about finding the wisdom to know what's truly worth fighting for. And as Emily and I stepped out into the evening air, ready to begin this new chapter together, I knew that Dad would be proud of both of us, not for what we owned, but for what we were finally ready to build.